All right. Welcome, Mark. Welcome to the Real Talk.
Hi, welcome.
Thanks. How are you doing today? I know Mark from
Really good.
Electronic Sourcing Magazine. You're based in the UK. We're doing this thing from, as you say, across the pond.
Yeah,
We're trying to
yeah,
put and get some more information. I'm so thankful and honored to have you on the Real Talk to really go over what's going on in the industry, especially from the publishing side. The whole digital world, the pandemic has threw us into a whirlwind. Exactly from the tops of everything. Everything's digital. The way we communicate, the way we visit, the way we put content out there is really to understand really what's happening, especially in the electronics industry and the way people are decoding and decompressing information, how they're getting it. And I really love to have you come on and also tell a little story about electronic sourcing, because I know there's a history behind it, how you came in the marketplace from the US, from Europe side to US, and what's going on forward. But moving forward, the first question I have for you is, how are you?
good, really good, really good. Yeah, the team is actually back in the office now. We're all working COVID safely. So we've been working the whole time during COVID, during the actual lockdowns. So it's been kind of like, I wouldn't say as normal as before, but we've just plowed ahead, kept producing quality editorials for our readers. Yeah, life is good. Life is good.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that positivity coming back to the office, seeing faces again in person. It's realize we miss that, and that's how powerful it is when we can get that interpersonal communication, and also get to come more brainstorming and things changing for the future. But of course, I think also our mind and social. Just the way we feel being in the office and in a different surroundings is good than being at the home or work from home type of dynamic. But but moving forward, I'd like to start with who is electronic sourcing, and also yourself, and how did you get into this position of being the publishing lead in the Electronic Sourcing magazine?
Sure. Okay. Well, I've been working on electronics print trade publications since 1993. Luckily, I've been working on publications targeting design engineers, very technical publications, electronics manufacturing and test magazines going into production engineers. And years and years and years ago, 17, 18 years ago, I went to visit an EMS contract manufacturer in the south of England. And he was actually the marketing manager, but also the chief buyer. And I went to visit him one morning and he seemed really, really stressed. And I said, "What's up?" And he said, "It's so frustrating." He said that we actually need to source some connectors for a device that the military need. It's a device you drop in the sea, the warships use as target practice. The design engineer had actually specified Deutsche Motorsport connectors, but they were on like a 52-week lead time. So he said to me that he went back to the design engineer and he said, "Sorry guys, I've been paid for my work. I'm actually a freelance design engineer. It's a sourcing problem. Back to you." So as a consequence, the purchasing team then changed the actual spec and changed it to a Stereo connector, which is very, very similar, and got the products out to market. So he said to me, he said, "You've got all these magazines for design engineers, all these magazines for production, manufacture and test magazines. What about buyers? I've got 26 buyers working for me, but there's no publication to explain to them how to source components, how to buy, what to buy, where to buy, information on counterfeiting, on obsolescence, lead times." So I sent him a bottle of port for the idea. I then spoke to one of my publishers from my very early days in electronics. And I went to Companies House in the UK, where every company is registered by an SIC code, Standard Industry Classification Code. I purchased every single company in the UK that manufactures using electronic or electrical device or components to make their end devices, their end products. I got a team of people to then ring up every single company. "Do you manufacture at this site using electronic components?" "You do." "Fantastic. Can we please have the name of the person responsible for buying these components?" So the first issue was actually launched in April 2005. We had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old at the time. We remortgaged the house. Backs were well and truly against the wall, with limited money. But the circulation we had was excellent. John Barrett was appointed as my chief editor, who I've actually worked with John previously for a number of years. By having the best circulation, the best editorial, I knew we'd actually then get the kind of readership to create that triangle. So the first issue went out and received very, very well in the marketplace. Within weeks, I started getting checks from readers from Germany, France, Italy, Portugal, and I'd ring them up and say, thanks for the check, I'll put it in the bank, but why? You must have your own publications in your countries. And they said, well, yeah, we do, but they're all aimed at design engineers or manufacturing production engineers. Yours is the only magazine that's educational. It tells us how to buy the components. So a purchase professional coming from a wood, plastics, chemical industry, coming into the electronic component industry, Sourcing is the only magazine to educate them, and they're willing to pay for it out of their own money to buy that kind of expertise and independent, authoritative advice. So the May issue went out, the June issue went out. I then started getting checks from readers in America and Canada. So the same thing, why? And they said, well, we used to have a magazine in the States called EBN, Electronics Buyers News, but they ceased the print copy quite a few years prior to Sourcing coming along. So very quickly, we kind of teamed up with the ECIA in terms of promoting authorized distribution. Obviously, we know that independent distributors are there for a reason as well, with shortages and so forth. So again, we've been running lots of articles when you've got obsolescence or end of life, large time buys, what to do in those kind of situations. So currently we have Electronic Sourcing UK, which is monthly, Electronic Sourcing Europe, which is circulated to the whole of Europe, excluding the UK and Ireland. And that's bi-monthly, and we have Electronic Sourcing North America, which is now this is its 11th year of publishing for the States. For me personally, pre-COVID, I was traveling to the States at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. So I've got to view a lot of areas in the States, and boy, do I miss it.
Yeah, I mean, this story is fascinating because I can take it back from the beginning. Is you were in the space of electronics or distribution or design, but you saw a need. You saw, you took it from there and you saw there's a problem that you need to solve here. It's not with a product, it's just solving problems. People have questions. They want knowledge, they want insight, they want content. They want to be able how to do their job better, or how can they better themselves in the job with the resources that are out there. Because of course, some days as a commodity manager, engineer, or buyer, you always want to better yourself every single day of how can you better at your job. And I can say it's like, okay, there's a lot of technical stuff out there, but how do we better ourselves in the sourcing aspect?
Yeah, I think I'm actually one of the few publishers that's
suppliers.
I'm very active in terms of speaking to my readers on a regular basis. And I'm not too sure many publishers do this, but to get the right editorial content and topics, it's really down to me to interview our readers, just like we're doing now, but to say to them, what's your biggest challenge right now? What's your biggest thorn in the side? What's your biggest bump in the road? And recently they've come back and they said things like empty reels. We buy components on the reel, we put them on the pick and place machine, we then have empty reels and distributors won't take them back. We then have to pay for those harmful plastics to be crushed, put in the landfill site. So again, I'm still looking for a company who can actually provide reusable reels. So topics like that. Lots of feedback. Right now we're hearing about readers having lots of logistics increases. There's a shortfall in the States of truck drivers to get shipments.
Of course. I mean, I'll stop right there. That's a global change. Every logistics from the solutions. But one thing I want to take a step back from, one thing that you expressed there in the beginning in the formulation, the circulation, is really understanding, of how the MMG group. So MMG in general, what does it stand for and what does it cover? What's it embody?
So MMG basically stands for Mark's Media Group. Or alternatively, Mark's Morgan Grampian. So one of the first major publishing houses I worked for in the early 90s was Morgan Grampian. which was actually owned by CMP in the States. We had by far the best publications, the best editors, the best circulations. And what I've done is basically built MMG here on the original blueprint of what Morgan Grampian was. So listening to readers, quality products, quality staff, easy to do business with. Yeah, I've kept the same blueprint, which works.
So how many, I would say, distribution articles for electronic sourcing are under MMG? How many are there? Is it just electronic sourcing, or are there other titles of other publications?
Yeah, so here we've got electronic sourcing UK, electronic sourcing Europe, electronic sourcing North America. We've also got ebomb.com, which is 100% online products. That's aimed more for design engineers. So for that, we're publishing multi articles per day, latest components in the marketplace being launched. We also have the electronic sourcing websites for UK, for Europe, and separately for North America as well. Just like with the publications, we find that the different readers for different regions, they prefer articles in different formulas. So the US readers tend to be a little bit more technical. The UK readers tend to be less technical, and the European readers are kind of a mix in the middle.
Okay, so we go back to your the demographics. So US, Europe in general, and then you got UK. So that's basically 3 different demographics that you're covering.
Correct. That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead.
Yeah. So also it's very important as well that we actually speak to our readers on a regular basis. So pre-COVID, 99.6% of our circulation is re-verified and researched every 12 months. So what that means is that we actually make phone calls from here. We have a team in Iowa who actually call our readers of Electronic Sourcing North America to say to them, we send you a regular copy of Electronic Sourcing. Are you still the main person responsible for buying electronic components for your manufacturing facility? You are. Please can we take the first 2 letters of the first school you attended to prove that we've actually called you today? So it's a real pain, especially with readers in the States where they tend not to pick up their telephone. So it's a little bit harder, but for Europe, they usually pick up the telephone, and I wish I could bottle that feedback from the readers in the circulation team here. They say electronic sourcing, that's the one we actually pass around the office, and that's the one we actually read every month. And I just wish I could kind of bottle that kind of feedback from the readers.
Okay, no, I 100%, because that feedback is how you make change and evolve the publication to also address some of the challenges. Oh, I wish you had this, or I had this, and of course, surveying them. Or at the end of the day, you're surveying your audience to make sure you can give them the right content, because of course, the subscription they're paying for, they want to make sure that you can deliver the product that they're anticipating or they're needing, which and it changes that formula could happen to. Because that's my kind of questions. 2 questions I have for you is, from say the early 2000s to 2019, how did the publishing industry evolve? Because that's when the whole internet boom. So how was it evolving? Because we'll get into COVID, the second part, and then the pandemic on side. What changed in that, say, 15 years?
Hardly anything. The biggest kind of surprise that I get every year is that the detailed research we do for each publication every 12 months, one of the most important questions on there is, would you like to receive electronic sourcing in a print format or a digital format emailed to you? So let me throw the question back to you. What percentage do you think of our readers for Electronic Sourcing North America would like a print copy of the publication as opposed to a digital page turning edition? What percentage would you guess at?
I would guess probably a good 50% would probably want, or over 50% want digital, and maybe a smaller percentage want the print format.
89% of our readers want a print copy of Electronic Sourcing in North America.
And that's from pre-pandemic, or is this post-pandemic?
It's both. It's
both. So at the same time, everything has not changed.
Exactly.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and another thing that's actually been shown up as well is design engineers during the pandemic have been working very much remotely from home. Purchasing professionals, buyers, because they've got to have meetings with the production engineers, usually on site at the manufacturing facility, they've been going into the office. So it's really clever. It's really clever to get this kind of feedback, because I thought everyone will be working from home, every single reader. And the fact that year on year, the percentage of readers who want to receive the print edition of electronic sourcing, because they can touch it, they can feel it, they can read it at their own time. You tend to trust a printed product that's educational and problem solving for you, as opposed to an email coming through where most of our readers are saying, please don't send us an email. We are being bombarded by so many people trying to sell to us. We receive hundreds of emails a day. We go through them, delete. So again, they're saying to me, we haven't actually sent out any third-party emails for advertisers for over 5 years now. I wish in a way we could, because it'd be great revenue for us. But I made the decision 5 years ago to stop sending third-party emails to our readers, because they don't want them. They just want to receive the print edition of electronic sourcing.
That's very fascinating, because the demographic, how it's changed, and through this digital revolution in the last 20 years, you would say, and the way we take content and through the news outlets, digitally, through the feeds, through the social media outlets. That's why I wanted to jump into the social media outlets. How is that facilitated? I mean, through I would say the Facebooks or the Twitters or the LinkedIns. How much exposure or how updated do you think is? I mean, have you surveyed your customers? Are they on like LinkedIn, or are they on Twitter? Should they push content out there? What type of feedback do you get from that?
Sure. A lot of our readers tend to kind of stay independently. So we have over 1,200 readers now on the LinkedIn electronic sourcing site. Which is great, but what I'm finding more and more is that more purchasing professionals globally are now wanting to receive electronic sourcing in print. So this morning I had a meeting with our circulation manager, and we had Peru, we had Australia, we had New Zealand. So that's quite interesting. It's costing a lot of postage, but my philosophy from day one is, anybody who wants a copy of electronic sourcing, I want to send it to them. And that's my kind of passion taking over, as opposed to my business head.
No, I understand, because these days you would go back to digital, because the analytics. These days, a lot of people spend advertising off the whole ecosystem of analytics of how the user engages, where they build. And publication, of course, had kind of limited analytics, because you can know where you distribute it to, and the advertiser that your customers advertising could put certain email addresses or certain phone numbers to be able to dictate, okay, this person came through here because they're contacting us through this channel, because that's how, I mean, for my experience, that's how we did in some of the publications. We would put certain email or phone numbers or something in there that we would know this is driven from, say, electronic sourcing. This is driven from XYZ. We would know, and that's how we would measure. But in today's digital world, it all comes from impressions, from the lead throughs, from click throughs, from how that goes through. And it's fascinating how that comes to be, because I know a lot of the bigger companies or advertisers, the first thing they ask you is, can you give us your analytics, your demographics, and all the micro information of who reads it, what's your click through rate, how many through your website. They're not even thinking about the print version, because most of them, the marketing heads, are very digital aspects. So does that come to a surprise sometimes when you say, well, our advertising, we get more traction through digital or through publications and the print than we do for digital? And sometimes they're like, that doesn't make any sense. So do you have some of those conversations?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what I usually say to especially to advertisers is, ask your sales team to go out there and ask your clients which publications they're reading, which conferences they're going to. And it usually comes back electronic sourcing, because electronic sourcing is the only print publication for electronics purchasing professionals. It's also a fact that quite a few companies have kind of jumped onto the online, I wouldn't say bandwagon, but direction, because you can get the analytics and what have you. But again, my question to that is branding. just because companies are sending out email addresses, why should my readers buy from any company? It's their direction, it's their decision which companies they buy components from. They need to be reassured they're buying the right components at the right cost. They're legitimate original components, and there's a big trust thing there, it's very important. Some of the bigger advertisers in electronic sourcing have said to me that digitally they've actually found it quite difficult to get their brand over digitally. So they've kind of done a bit of a U-turn, and now actually going back into print more than they used to a couple of years ago, because they're struggling to get their brand over. So that
brings up a good point. You bring up a great point, and that comes from the branding of a company branding to the personal branding of the sales individual who's doing the sales product. Because that's one thing I think in the industry, and to be very transparent and be open about it, I think in electronics, especially the hardware industry, it's been challenging to understand. I think because it's the generational gap, and because we're very engineer based, minds aren't very consumer-esque. They're very the B2B. And creating the brand change of the companies is it's harder for them to say, how do we create the brand? Who do we represent? Because today's world, there's a brand, but there's also brand ambassadors, right? There's brand influencers in the consumer world, right? That's really what it happens to be. The people, the consumer world, these big companies on set, if you're a Google or an Apple or very anomaly companies where they don't really need anything, but majority of the other companies that fall into that 99% of those companies, they usually have a brand and they have influencers as either their salespeople, in consumer, they have some celebrities or someone that could bring on a brand that has more reach, right?
Sure.
So the electronics industry, we really don't have brand ambassadors because it's not very in the public eye. Not a lot of the executives or salesperson are always branding themselves. So I think this is very new to the industry, which in my opinion, it's going to change in the future. This is going to have to, because it's the way the psyche of marketing is changing, the way we take information down. But again, you brought a great point, is sometimes the basics of print, because there's nothing there, gives you more exposure, and people actually want to open a magazine and flip it and actually read the content because they're kind of over scrolling. They're kind of like, that's all I do all day on emails, and I'm inundated with enough emails, of marketing emails. I don't know what's right. I don't know what substance there is. If what I'm looking at sometimes, I can spend 5-10 minutes on my break or something. Oh, this looks good. And there's brand recognition and branding through that as well, because that becomes, you read an article about XYZ company who just did this, or his new supply chain provider, or logistics or design, which kind of and subconsciously goes in your mind. So if you see actually a digital thing of it, you remember, I read a good article. This is a credible company. It was electronic sourcing. Let me reach out, or if they reach out to you. So it all comes to that. So I can see where you're coming with that, and some of the surveys that you've done, which really does make sense. And now it's making me think. I'm like, well, this does have a valid point, because we're trying to go digital, but we're a little far ahead, I think, in our industry to keep pushing the digital.
Yeah,
we revolutionized. I
think digital obviously is really, really important. But the main thing that I've learned as publisher of electronic sourcing is that design engineers have a completely different requirement for information as opposed to purchasing professionals. It's a completely different breed. Design engineers, they love articles with technical diagrams and really techie information in there. Where my readers are basically saying, okay, I need to buy 5,000 MOSFETs. What's a MOSFET? What do I need to ask the sales team when I actually inquire about buying MOSFETs? What do I need to be made aware of? We had a reader who a couple of years ago bought $100,000 worth of surface mount semiconductors. Unfortunately, the production run was actually through hole. So he actually ordered 100,000 of the wrong components.
Of the wrong footprint that they needed, package.
And the distributor would not take them back, because obviously once they've been there, they could have been opened, which obviously they were, to have a look at them and so on. Basic mistakes like that. Unfortunately, he lost his job.
Wow.
So it's a pressurized job. where these people need authoritative, independent, quality outcomes to actually help them in their work role. But going back to the research again, if my readers of electronic sourcing wanted to receive everything digitally, fantastic. I'd save a fortune with the US postmaster, with paper, with printing. But I'm doing what readers want. In 10, 15 years time or 20 years time, when they say we want to receive 50% digital copies, 50% print, that's what I'll do. But I'm only really doing what I'm told to do by the readers, which is a great situation.
At the end of the day, you're following, let's say, of course, you can be innovative, you can be ready for the digital, but you're also listening. And at the end of the day is people don't realize we don't listen enough. And I think that's something in the digital world is we're not listening to the needs. And I love how you put that is I'm listening to my readers. I'm listening to what they say. And I'm changing my strategy to what their needs are. Because that's what we all want to be listened to. Oh, yeah. Mark listened to me. I said this. He's like, yes, okay, I got you. I'm going to build a product and serve your needs and fill that solution or that problem that you're having. Here it is. And I can see that jizz in the last 20 years of really where electronic sourcing is. Your forte is to listen and give the readers what they're asking for.
Exactly. And it's quite interesting as well is that other publishers have actually spoken to me at Electronica and other big trade shows. And they said, what's the secret? Our print magazine's getting smaller and smaller, but yours is getting bigger. And it's really down to the fact, again, that they're targeting design engineers and they have a different requirement, a different media requirement. They're much more opposed to going online, downloading the data sheets and taking their latest designs from there. It's a different kettle of fish when you're actually buying components for your manufacturing facility. Some of these pick and place machines are throwing down, 120,000 components per hour onto a PCB board. My readers have to keep up with those machines. They've got to be buying 120,000 components per hour to keep up with them.
Of course,
it's and they need to know what to buy, where to buy, how to buy. Preferred suppliers lists, and it's a real minefield out there.
Oh, of course. And the new generation coming in, of course, that's one of the questions I have for you is also feeding the new generation of these in the manufacturing industry. If it comes from engineers, it comes from buyers, sourcing, commodity, and any future leaders to understand the business and give them some type of content to kind of show the way. And this is the industry, this is who plays, these are the companies in there, these are companies that play in this industry to build credibility and to be a guide as well, right? To be a guide for that. So that brings me to my next question is now, since we're again kind of in the post, I would say kind of post-pandemic, a year and a half later, we're kind of out of this a little bit. Now we're dealing with it. It's everyday life and we're getting back into opening up the globally. What are the challenges? Of course, we hit supply chain. You hit a supply chain logistics. So what are some of the things that your readers are needing now? Can you give me more information about what's going on logistics or technology, or because lead times are going out 40, 50 weeks? What are some of the information that your readers are asking for to put into your publications right now?
The biggest concern they have right now is lead times. With some of the components going further than beyond 52 weeks now. Just in time delivery is being affected as well, because components are being suffering from logistics, whether it be air travel. A reader said to me 2 weeks ago that her freight costs have actually gone up fourfold in the last 6 months.
Wow. Yep.
So that was absolutely incredible.
Yes.
One major distributor is now putting all of their components on trains. So rather than actually using aircraft, they're actually now using trains just to actually get their components distributed around everywhere. So it's really interesting. But the biggest thing right now is lead times. It's transport costs. Some distributors have been trying to cover those costs themselves, but when air freight is actually charging 4 times the cost, you have to pass that on. So that's having a knock-on effect, and our readers are then going to their clients to say, "I'm really sorry, but in terms of planning for the next 12 months, we've been hit with a 4-fold increase in logistics costs."
I could not agree more, because of course, as a leader in a business, of this, our distribution company, it's the same. We're feeling the same. I think we're all in the same boat. We're all rowing in the same boat, feeling the cost of the massive surge of logistics, of the freights. We have a lot of disasters happening, not just with a pandemic, with other things, fires in locations of semiconductor sites. There are freight carriers or cargo ships getting stuck in a canal, which causing backups. There are, of course, the consumer airlines. People didn't realize that over 50% of the logistics in the world was transported through consumer airlines. It wasn't just FedEx, DHL, UPS. It was through the consumer brand. They would fill the bellies of those of logistics, and since those were down 60 to 80% over through the pandemic, which are just speeding back up, all costs skyrocketed, and the pent-up demand has everything's at one time. Of course, we're in a technology revolution, meaning connectivity is at the top at any time it's ever been, because the work from home accelerated that. The work from home has done that through data computing, through the supercomputing, through AI and cloud-based systems. Everything is connected into a cloud, so you can work from anywhere. You can have it connected to any device from any place you want to go. These are things that we're doing because that's where life's going, and it's moving forward. Of course, EV, the EV side for electronics vehicles. These are, the demand of electronics is accelerated, and I would say the fuel was the pandemic to show us like, hey, we need to be prepared and move forward, and it's causing the supply chain disruption. But things are where the solutions, and I know a lot of your readers probably say, what can I do? A train. That's the first I heard. I didn't hear that. They're putting on train because it is cheaper. Probably the cost when you have 10 folds. I can give an instance. We were paying $2,500, $3,000 a container to come from China to the States. Today, to get allocation, you're paying around 10 to 12,000.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That just to get allocated, and then you're not guaranteed that it's going to port within 28 days from C to C, because you got four weeks backlog just at the ports to get it off the ship. So you are doubling your lead time. You're paying 4 times much, and you're doubling your lead time. And what does that cause? I want the suppliers or the customers or the manufacturers cannot eat that. They can only eat it for a short time. So that causes the inflation with the challenge that we're facing today.
Also, another thing as well, Rob, is the fact that it's allocation. Some of our readers, I spoke to one reader last week, and he was really frustrated the fact that he'd been buying a regular allocation of components from a certain distributor, and allocation has got really, really small. Stock levels have gone really, really down. The distributor turned around to their long-term buyer and said, I'm sorry, I'm really low of stock of these certain components. What I can do for you is, if you really, really want them this week, I'll charge you 8 times what you paid last month. If you wait until the end of July, you can pay the original cost you paid last month. And it's going to be quite interesting to see how distributors who have got long-term clients, a lot of relationship there for years and years. But if a distributor wants to make a quick buck like that, that's when, so that's another area where there's a lot of pressure on right now, because clients are saying, we've been buying from you for years. You are our best distributor. We love you to bits. However, just because this component's on it's practically obsolete because you can't get them, you want to charge me 8 times more? Really?
Yeah. The ethics and the moral of that story is challenging, especially if it's coming from a top tier distributor or someone who is an authorized franchise for a specific line that has that line and is trying to saying that. I would understand independent or something, because the market in gray area has inflated. Components that were 50 cents are going for $5 to $10 now. But that's the gray area, because everybody's costs are going higher. And that's that trading. But I would say from an authorized, distributor, buying allocation ahead of time, that hey, you can give it to you next week for 8 times the cost. But if you want to, or if you want the contract price, which we agreed on, that's July of 2022.
Exactly.
That is the ethics of that is tried, because instead of saying sorry, we can't deliver till then. I think it even looks even worse trying to price gouge them. It's better for them to go, I mean, it's sorry to say it, to another distributor or open market to get those parts and pay a higher price, because at least that's a short-term gap fill. But those companies are losing reputation because of it. And also you need to educate. That's why I tell even all our salespeople and people around influence, like, you need to educate your customer what's going on in the industry, not just say this. We all know we're on the same boat. You put a high price, we quote 50 cents. Now the price is $5, and you don't give them an explanation why. That puts the perspective like, this guy's just trying to price gouge me because of the supply chain shortage or chip shortage, instead of saying our costs are the same. Our costs are got up 8 times, just like yours have. So we're all in the same boat. And if you want to do that, we have to pay more. You have to get more. It's not that we're paying the same price and we're just charging you 8 times. That is the unethical part, especially coming from, I would say some of the customers you're talking about are buying from long-term franchise or big franchise companies who that's their business. And now they're,
he didn't actually tell me whether it was actually authorized or independent. He just said a distributor. So but that was interesting. But if you put yourself back in the shoes of the purchasing professional, so that's the situation I've got. I either wait until the end of July and I pay the same cost, or if I buy it now, it's 8 times the cost. How does my reader then go find another distributor?
Source. How do they exactly?
A trusted distributor. I was looking on the ERAI website this afternoon, and I came across a section where it basically says "Do not buy" or be aware, and it had a list of all of these distributors and their email addresses, and it's quite interesting that somebody can actually set up a website that looks really snazzy and everything else. But it's down to our readers to make sure that they're comfortable with who they're kind of engaging with and buying from.
I agree. And that comes to credibility and putting yourself out there, which comes to the marketing. It comes back to publication. Who are the people, right? We're full 360. Comes back to people that are in front of us, are talking advertising, branding, putting information in, are they're credible suppliers putting content into your publications, onto your website, or wherever they're coming, the outlets of the distribution mediums, they're coming out there and being credible, and that's the thing, is like, we don't know, because these days, the internet, you can have a ghost site that looks the most beautiful, credible site that looks glamorous, and you don't know if it's real or not, but you chance it because they show that you have a product that you need. Here's the price. You go to, these things happen. These type of frauds happen, or counterfeits happen to that point. Is that your publishing or MMG or electronic sourcing is a credible outlet that you're trying to get also clients that come in that show, okay, we can get in front of your customers. If you can solve a 52-week lead time from one of our customers, just like the story that you had with the Deutsch part, that you found another supplier, these are the types of solutions that you're trying to provide to your readers that, okay, I might have a solution for this. This other company is half the lead time. 25 weeks is better than 50 weeks. So that is a solution, and if you go through this process of doing it, and then you can have multi-allocation. So you are informing them of making calculated decision of the content you're putting out for them to bring to their management and to say, okay, this is what we're doing. I've learned this from electronic sourcing. They told me this is a good supplier. This is a credible. Let's give it a shot.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and that's, as I said, it's building that. It's influence, right? You're influencing that, but on a credible influence. I guess we are. At the end of the day, we're all influencers in some way or form, from leadership, from publications. We're influencing people's habits or educating them with the influence of showing them content. Of course, the internet it can be skewed of influence where it's going to, but in our small little industry, I say we're this biggest, the largest, one of the second largest industries in the world, and we're growing at an exponential rate. But the biggest, smallest industry that people don't know all about, that we are this, and this is, it's sometimes a little scary. It's like, we're spending close to hundreds of billions of dollars of components, or $1 trillion, but nobody knows who the distribution, everybody is the software companies, the tech companies, those are the sexy, but
Yeah.
we're the foundation of the engineering of building that hardware, where the platform and the ecosystem where the software operates off of, right? So any gadget that you have. So I always tell people, I said, what do you do? I'm like, I'm in the supply chain distribution engineering of electronics. Like, what does that mean? Well, sometimes, any gadget that you're driving around, any gadget you're using, I sell those components that go on the PC board. They're like, what is a PC board? I'm like, then it gets into technical, but these are the things that we do to make it very simple. Because it's funny. It's like, you say what you do, if people ask you on my publication, for what industry? Electronics. They're saying, oh, is it for cell phones? Is it for, that's the first thing people always think when you say electronics, right?
We had a reader who called in about a month ago, and she was actually brought up buying components for an OEM company. She's now moved into the food industry.
Okay.
So she gave us a call to say, I've been brought up on electronic sourcing from a young age. I'm now working in the food and beverage industry. Can I please have a copy of food sourcing? So that was really, really kind of interesting. The fact that she thought we actually also did a whole range of different sourcing publications. But another thing I was looking at launching was Electronic Sourcing Asia. But the problem with that is the fact that I don't know enough about the kind of Asian market, and particularly the distributors. And we've got such a strong foothold here we don't vet the kind of companies, but it's due to the experience I've got and the editorial team here, we've got a good understanding of the companies that we want within electronic sourcing. And if I did go ahead and publish Electronic Sourcing Asia, I could be putting, grey markets, adverts or editorials into the publication. It would then tarnish the brand. So I'm personally going to stick away from Asia. Let the Asian publications do their kind of publications over there. But for the UK, Europe, and North America, we are promoting kind of quality distribution.
Yeah, I agree. Asia is a Goliath. China is its own animal, and then you have Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is a little, as I say, China is where you can get lost with all the suppliers, but Southeast Asia, a little more, of course, there's a lot more English down there, and you can have English written and they can understand it. That would be the thing, because we have some partners that do the same thing. Like, should we go to China or should we do publications? And I'm like, well, if you not really know it, China is its own animal. Southeast Asia, there's a hotspot, especially now since the transition. A lot of offshoring from China is going to Southeast Asia for allocations, the tariffs, and all the challenges happening in the industry, right? Yeah. So Southeast Asia, but of course, everybody wants to go there, but it's an unknown, especially when you can't travel right now or visit people there. You really don't have the census of the feet on the ground, the soldiers on the ground to give you that information back. So it's always scary. But overall, you could say the U.S. market is strong, European market's getting strong, and even, South America, going to Mexico, to Brazil, there are a lot of markets because a lot of the manufacturers are contractors. They're building sites down there. There's a lot of buyers, there's a lot of content, a lot of English speaking. They all agree, because I would say the number one language is we use, and it doesn't matter global business we're in, is US dollar, and English is used every industry.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, true.
So, which is it's an advantage for a company like yours. So you can actually go anywhere in the world and give them content, and most people can read it who are in our industry.
Exactly. English is the main kind of business language of the world. And hence we're now, we're actually getting requests for copies of electronic sourcing all over the world, which is it's great, absolutely fantastic.
That's great. That's one brings me to a question of going to like the future right now is like we're going to conferences again, right? I think the next conference I think they're going to have is EDS, right? EDS in Las Vegas. So are you attending? What's going on? Give us a little bit of background. What's going on with you and EDS and ECIA and all the ERA and all the companies are attending? We
are definitely going. I had a couple of emails from a couple of other publishing related companies 2 weeks ago saying that they weren't going because there's only half of the people going to EDS that usually go there. So I've been contacting clients, and I found 2 clients that are not going. Everyone else is going. So that's really interesting. In the last 2 weeks, and I think one person couldn't go because of a wedding. So, you know,
Conflict, yeah.
yeah, I'm so looking forward to EDS. It's the kind of week where we release all of our latest research for electronic sourcing North America. So I love presenting that to everybody. It's just a great connection, a bit like the kind of the ESIA Executive Chicago Conference. That's another great opportunity to kind of meet and see everybody. But EDS, we've got 5 staff coming from the UK. We've got 2 staff going from the US to Vegas, and looking forward to it.
No, it's fantastic. It's great to hear the industry's coming. They're opening up. People are coming back together. Of course, as you guys been out to Vegas is going to be 100% open in the next week or so. Everything, all casinos, it's going to be everything open. Because I mean, all the event centers, all the conference centers. So it's a very positive news. I mean, we are about 3-4 months out. Hopefully everything stays constant. We're good. You know, nothing dramatic happens, but you know, in this last couple of years, we don't know. So some disruption might happen. Hopefully it doesn't. I'm praying, because I think that just brings people, the industry together to make better calculated decisions, to come together, to be more powerful, because we are in a midst of a major disruption of supply chain components, technology, and we all have to, a lot of, you know, brilliant minds, we need to come together and say, how are we going to change this? How are we going to do the publication side, to distribution, to manufacturers, and come together and build awareness and an influence and awareness of, and also for the future of the new generation coming in. And I hope a lot more people get exposure of the industry to get it, as I said, bring the sexy back again, make it sexy again, because our industry kind of, you know, it was in the 80s and 90s, it was very exciting, early 2000s, but the software tech kind of took over that big glamour. And in my opinion is we need to, I always say it, I'm always bring the sexy back to electron hardware. That's it.
Yeah,
you know, it is.
It is, exactly. And also electronics, for me, the electronics industry, it's a people industry. There's so many nice clients out there and readers. When some of the circulation team actually ring up readers and they go, hi, you know, love the magazine, keep sending it through. You know, it's really, really good. But I think we've always had challenges, though, in the electronics industry, whether it's been tsunamis, whether it's been huge fires, whether it's volcanoes, whether it's Suez canals. COVID is a massive, massive disruption. But in the supply chain, we've always had challenges. I wouldn't say a year, but there's always been kind of major challenges to possibly impact the electronic supply chain. And what's really cool is that somehow we always get through it, which is really positive, and it just shows the professionalism and caliber of the kind of individuals buying and selling of electronic components.
I 100% agree with you. And I've been in this industry for almost, you know, I was born into it. So 20 plus years I've been actually in the business, you know, of it. And I've seen it. I've traveled all over the world. I spent a lot of time. And one thing it is a people business, it's a relationship business, but now with the digital world, you can connect to more people. And I can say is one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that I've connected with more people in the last year than I ever did in the last 20 years. I accelerated, and just like, look at us today.
Yeah.
This is so powerful of connecting with people. It's just a medium. The digital footprint and the social media is a medium. There's a lot of different mediums, there's publications and our mediums. These are mediums that we need to use these and also influence a lot of others to use them. We use print, we use digital. It's not just focus and put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Right? And that's the biggest thing. Is I think also I'm learning from you today is our marketing strategy was very, very digital. Of course, we could be there, but don't put all your eggs, because there is opportunity, there is exposure in print media, especially in the customer and the people we're trying to reach, right?
Exactly. People have their own preferences on what type of information source they actually receive.
Correct. Of course, I think in the newer generation, when I say the millennials or the X and the Ys coming in, there's a lot more digital, but I think still in our industries, we got an older generation, even though they have digital, everybody's adapted, they still prefer, and we got that. And we have to deliver that information because they're decision makers, they're the buyers, they make these and they influence and we need to be there. I always say, tell my team and tell everybody, you need to be where the people are at. If you're not there, it's hard to generate any influence or any type of opportunity. Because at the end of the day, you can't ask for business. It's creating, is that the formula I always say is visibility creates likeness that can lead to credibility, that can lead to opportunity. This is how it is generated, right? Visibility creates likeness at scale. And at this point, you need to be visible to create that likeness and credibility to build opportunity, because you can't just ask for business. You ask for opportunity that you can convert to business.
Sure. But for me personally, it's a case of doing detailed, regular research to say to our readers, what do you want? We speak to them on the phone. We send you this. Would you like to receive it in this format? Would you like emails? Do you want print or digital editions? It's really, really powerful feedback. So I will keep doing that year after year after year. When it changes, we will change with it. So that's my philosophy.
No, I think it's excellent. Excellent. That brings me to my final question for you. Couple questions. What is your outlook for the electronics industry, for the future of the outlook of electronics industry, tied in not with supply chain and the component side, but also for publishing industry? Like, what's your outlook for publishing? What do you think in the next 5 years, 10 years is going to change? As well as that's question one. Question two, come to what do you think is going to change in the electronics industry in general?
Yeah, we actually asked that same question to our readers about 2 years ago. And they basically said that they see that software will be becoming more involved in terms of looking after logistics more and auto ordering and so on. But there will always need for somebody to actually ensure that those components get onto that production line, the right components at the right time and the right cost. So I think they'll be around for quite a while. I think we'll always have challenges like we touched on earlier: volcanoes, tsunamis, fires, ships stuck in canals. There'll always be challenges coming along. But at the end of the day, we're working in an industry that's rapidly changing, rapidly advancing. So for the supply chain, I don't see it kind of changing drastically for at least the next 5-10 years. That's my personal view.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of plans for changes. I think onshore, offshoring, as you would say, these type of things, and to make a more robust supply chain, to not be so lean, you would say, because everybody's the just in time, the lean. They kind of see in these type of disasters, it breaks. Yeah. So we have to be smarter about how we predict and invest to prevent these type of challenges. Or again, don't put our eggs in all in one basket. This is all it is. And it's such a simple, analogy or metaphor we go into. It's like, don't put your eggs in one basket, because that will always eliminate any type of disaster or reduce the damages that can cost, moving forward. So, but I really appreciate you coming on, Mark. It's great learning about you and MMG Electronic Sourcing, what you guys are all doing. Do you have any message or anything for the new generation coming into the industry? What type of tips or tricks, things do you have for them?
Give me feedback. Okay. Give me feedback on content. Give me feedback on what you don't like, what you do like. That's what I've always done from day one with electronic sourcing. It's been very much the kind of industry's publication. The industry tells me and John Barrett and the editorial team what to do. So I'd say more of that kind of feedback, because without that feedback, we can't produce the quality editorials that you guys need. All right. So of course, it's kind of that thing. So for me, the feedback. I would like everyone who wants a copy of electronic sourcing globally to get one. We have obviously digital editions on the websites. If you want print editions, contact us. If I had more of a business head on, I'd be saying, we only restrict print copies going out. Being very, very passionate, I want everyone to get one if they want one. We will continue with the print and also the online offerings. Like we have the electronic sourcing website. We have different articles on there as well. But more the same, really. Just keep publishing what people want.
Exactly. And everybody wants to know the website to go to is www.electronicsourcing- sourcing,
electronics-sourcing.com.
sourcing, yeah,
That's it.
.com,
That's it.
and they can reach you guys and see all the content and even subscribe to get the content.
Exactly.
Right.
And also, if any readers out there or distributors have some really good editorial content that they feel is applicable to electronic sourcing, please contact us. We've got some articles coming out in the next 4 weeks, which are about labeling. Apparently, in the US markets, $1.73 million is caused by wrong labeling going onto electronic reels.
Wow.
So we're publishing that article in there. Again, it's really interesting stuff that we can actually tell the world, and we can actually then work towards those kind of problem areas.
Excellent, Mark. So fascinating, and I know, and hopefully we can meet in person sometimes, maybe even at EDS.
Let's do it.
I love to meet you in person. I love to keep up, and I love to have you back on just to give us updates, maybe a quarterly. What's going on, electronic source? What's going on in the world to really understand? I guess it's connecting, listening, understanding, and as I said, there's always a silver lining to what we've been going through last year, and I really appreciate it for you coming on the Real Talk today.
More than welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. Really good, Rob.
Thank you very much, Mark. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.